all know that. I have everybody on mute at this point. Just you can unmute yourself if you have a question, but I do have a presentation that I would like to go through, and then what we'll be doing is opening it up to everybody just to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to participate and ask questions, and just trying to make sure that everybody can have the same experience. And the reason why I'm talking in this way is because I'm trying to get that ding dong to go away, but I don't think I can right now, and I've forgotten how. Erica, does anybody remind me how to do that? I'm sorry, I'm not being very smart today.
I'll work on it, Ann.
Okay, I'm going to begin sharing my screen, and we will begin with the presentation at this time. I do go in and out of the slideshow. Again, I'm going to welcome you all to the Summit of ELPAC Essentials Zoom meeting. This meeting is to review some of the items that we've already gone through. If you viewed the ELPAC Essentials training in Safe Schools. I'm embellishing on a few things that I really feel needed a little bit more time that I didn't want to take during that particular training. But I do feel that is important for us to go through. So our agenda for today will be to be reviewing the dashboard in further detail. And I'm going to do that live. I had a screenshot yesterday, didn't work out real well, so I'm going to break out, we'll do that live. Training versus calibration, what that means and what that means to you as you relate it to staff at your site. Testing details, including, which ones are one-on-one and which ones are, group administration, which does all of the different trainings you participated in does go through that a lot. So that's going to be a quick one. We're going to get a little bit more into the reports because the eligibility report is different this year. I will be talking about and demonstrating the TOMS report versus the completion report, where they're accessed and why they're different. And then we're going to talk about brainstorming, questions, discussions. And then we'll open up the floor so that we had a really good back and forth but discussion yesterday. And I'd like to see that continue today. So first of all, if you're arriving, I want to thank you for taking the time today to be here. I welcome our exchange of, information to make this as best that we can. So again, we were talking about that we will be going over the TOMS dashboard. And for many of you that I talk to on a day-to-day basis or, less frequently, I'm always referring you to the dashboard because it has so much great information that I log in every morning, I look at my dashboard, and I know whether I need to run reports. I know when I need to contact you all for different various reasons. And how I know that is from my dashboard. So in the very top portion, and like I said, I am going to get out of this particular presentation and I'm going to go into, please let me know if my screenshot is not loading properly. But give me a second. Erica's my wing woman today. So you all know Erica, she's the Director of Assessment Services. Erica, if you want to pop in and say hello. I know she's working with somebody in her office. So
hello, everybody. It's me. Nice to see all of you and put a face to a name. We appreciate you being here this afternoon. We know how challenging your job is. It is a very highly skilled position that you have taken on, and we truly appreciate it. Please know that Ann and I are here at any time for you to reach out. Ann has gone above and beyond to really just provide you all of the resources that you need. Link onto her Zoom at any time, but I will be here monitoring the chat, and please feel free to ask any question that you may have, because we're sure that if you have it, somebody else does as well. So we are here. Thank you again for being here, and thank you, Ann, for being a rock star.
Thank you. So again, when you open up TOMS, as the site ELPAC coordinator, one of the first things that you see, and again, this is at a district level, so my screen does look slightly different. I have some more components than you have. However, right here, you will see your school's name and your school's CDS code. And that's important because I often am asked about, oh, it's asking for the CDS code. What is it? This is where I go to get your CDS code when you need it. So so I actually go right into Tom's and I look up the CDS code for you. This refreshed on date and time is always important. And it only happened like twice last year, but twice last year, it did not refresh properly. And I was able to look at that right on and know that it hadn't been updated and refreshed. So I always eyeball. So today is the 20th. So this morning before I got into work at 4 a.m., this had been refreshed. And it's an important little tiny tidbit because I'm always talking about the timeline of data flow and it being 72 hours, 48 hours, 24 hours. You guys have heard all of it, I know. And this is one of those places I look to see if our data is being refreshed. Notifications requiring immediate attention. Sorry, my mouse is not behaving. This right here is a notification. If it's in red like this, you should click on it. If it's in green, you're good. Okay, red, what they tell us is a lot of time it says they open. So we got this notice last Monday or last Tuesday. And it's telling us that the window is going to open in 2 weeks and make sure that any updates to the student data is made basically prior to that. Okay, so and you can, and then the next one typically shows you stare reports in draft mode. The system does not like draft mode for stare reports. So if you have old stare reports that are in draft mode that you didn't submit for whatever reason, you need to delete them and keep those clean, and you'll have a green notification at all times, which is nice. General information, you may or may not have this bar. I honestly haven't been at a school site to know if they have this bar or not, but this tells you that your LEA coordinator is Erica. And again, you just heard from her. She's the Director of Assessment Services. And she's she's who the state will contact if there's issues. You have a to-do list, which is nice. Now, for me, it says that there are students not tested on initial within the 30-day window. And that anybody who has students that have not yet been assessed for whatever reason past that 30 days has probably already heard from me. And you will get emails from me, but that is, again, for you at your site, a telltale thing of without having to run a report. Hey, I got a kid. Okay. I'm skipping past the student demographics, and I do that for a reason, but I do want to point out on student counts per test, your initial ELPAC for the district, we have 3,400 students. Summative, we have 16,007, and for alternate, we have 579. Now, at your school site, you might have 10 initials. Now, all that will stay and it will grow throughout the year as students come into your school. It doesn't typically reduce because there's the number of incoming students. What does happen though, is if you have an IFEP student, it won't impact your summative numbers. But if you have a student who is EL, your summative number would increase. So if you test a student today on an initial tomorrow and their EL, tomorrow or the next day, your summative number would increase by 1. Same as if you change a test setting for a student from a summative to an alternate, these numbers will change. One will go down and one will go up. So that's something to look at and something to look for. Your testing windows here. Now, everybody knows that my test windows that I tell you about, and I try and be very clear that these are San Diego Unified test windows as opposed to the actual state issued test windows. These are state issued test windows. The initial runs July 6th through June 30th. The summative runs February 1st to May 31st, and the alternate runs November 1st to February 15th. The reason for internal shortened dates is because, as many of you I've worked with over the past, few years, I am one person that is in charge of communicating with you guys to get all of these students tested. We have to reach, as a district, we have to reach 100%, and that's across 200 sites. And again, that is for 16,700 students. So I have to make sure, as a district, all 16,700 students are tested in the summative. So my dates are a little different because I have to have time to be able to contact, follow up, and clean up on those particular students and sites. I did forget to minimize that so that you're not looking at that the whole time. Sorry about that, everybody. The next section, which I've been told you do not have the test status window, but you do have test domain windows at your site. Even under like, if the listening were missing components by days, you would have, my understanding is you do have these color-coded dates. Color-coded dates says any child not, or on our list, new arrivals for initial 0 to 30 days. And then the yellow is anybody who has been here longer than 31 days and has not completed an initial. Then we go into the 46 through 75, and then 76 and above, and those colors are orange and red. And that's just, again, it's a quick, easy visual to say, I got kids who are out of compliance. I need to figure out who they are. That tells me I need to run a report. So again, the at a glance thing is very helpful if you're trying to divide your time, as many of you are, between the bazillion other jobs you're being pulled to do at school sites. Your testing by domain, this part is you have your started and you have your completed, and you truly do want to keep these numbers as the same whenever, because what happens is if they're not the same, that means that somebody started something and they didn't finish it. And a lot of times you'll go, yeah, I know, we had a fire drill, so we didn't get to finish, so we did need to go back. So it is also a way to trigger, oh yeah, gosh, I never did start those kids back up after we came back from the fire drill. The other toggle switch you have here is to show summative. When our summative window opens, these numbers will start to increase and improve. Okay. This is your scores release. The only one that'll ever really flow correctly is going to be your initial, because initials, we put in everything, we do everything, and we print the score report, and then ETS actually, validates it, and then they consider it a released score.
And real quick, a question is, if we do not have a to-do list on our dashboard, does that mean we just don't have anything we have to do at the moment?
That is absolutely correct. Yep, that's perfect. So the THSS, which is the hand scoring system for the writing portion of the assessment, and right now we have 4 students probably just tested yesterday or even today that the hand scoring has not been submitted and finalized. So again, just keeping an eye on your dashboard and knowing what's happening is very it's important and very helpful. So sorry about that. Go back to my, thank you. So we are going to start talking about, and this is where I'm going to indicate to people that the OLA office has their function and their role, which is to produce the introduction on how to access and how to train in Moodle. I do not get too involved in that. I know about it because I have to go through training as well. And I'm speaking to it today only because we want to make sure that the messaging gets out there. And so I'm trying to be in a supportive role to the OLA office in making sure that we all have a good visual of what this training versus calibration. In the grades TK through 12, speaking portion of ELPAC, test examiners must be calibrated to assess a speaking domain. If you can see on your screen, these are broken down into a variety of what we call grade spans. Kindergarten 1 and 2, then you have K2, you have 3-5, you also have kindergarten through grade 5, grade 6 through 8, 9, 12, and 6 through 12 for some of our alternative schools and alternative sites. I'd like to point out that you have your calibration certification modules that are also separate from the training. So you go through the training and then you get calibrated in your specific grade level. If you are having a test examiner focus only on kindergarten, and that's all they're going to do for speaking, then only have them calibrate for kindergarten speaking. If you have a test examiner who's going to help you with the entire site, then you may want to do the kindergarten through 5. They have made this much nicer this year to see and get to where you need to be quickly. The other thing I have been informed as of yesterday was the calibration quizzes. As Ola explains to you, you need to keep track of your answers and write them down. My understanding is in last year, it was random what you got retested on. My understanding is this year, the when you have to go back to, if you have to repeat it, it's in the same order with the same questions. So it should be much less stressful process than it was last year. And that's basically all I'd like to say about the training portion for your staff. When it comes to testing, planning testing, it can be quite confusing, and we are aware of that, especially because speaking grades kindergarten through 12 and above is all one-on-one. That's the labor time intensive. It needs to have the calibration training, and it needs to be administered one-on-one at all grade levels. However, the good news is the listening, reading, and writing only requires a 16 and a half minutes. I put 17-minute video. It's a very quick video. I would show it to you, but it's a little, I'm not going to go into that right now because but the link is here, and I can send me an email, I'll send you the link to today's PowerPoint as well. But it's in your Moodle modules as well. So if you show your teaching staff this video during any kind of a shortened day or anything, they can actually administer the listening, reading, and writing, which is a computerized test for grades 3 through 12 and above. It will take a very large load off of test administrators' shoulders. The TK2 listening and reading could also be administered without having to calibrate, but your writing and your speaking needs calibration. So we will, I'm sure, have more questions about that. I just wanted to, again, go through that. What I have done and what other people have recommended is they'll take their EL rosters and they'll write the numbers of students in by this grade level, and then kind of figure out which teachers and which staff are available to do which of the different portions. So I'm sure you all have good ideas, which we're going to get to in regards to, you know, brainstorming, sharing ideas.
And you said speaking and writing need calibration. I thought it was just the speaking. Don't we turn in the booklets?
K through 2 on the writing, you turn in the booklets. The writing becomes calibration for initial. That was a good.
Okay, because you said speaking and I'm like, good. Okay, all right.
But it's also harder because in the speaking, actually, I'm partially right, partially wrong. Thank you. The writing for this younger grades, there's a where the test examiner needs to transcribe.
Yes, onto the booklet.
Yes, so that's the part I'm talking about.
Okay, so it's not putting something on the computer, it's right there on the paper. Okay.
Correct.
All right, thanks.
There's a training calibration they want you to go through for that. There's an extra training component in there. I do know that. So
yes.
Again, that's a Moodle thing. I don't want to get too in the weeds on the Moodle part, just because it can get tricky because of all the different grade levels.
Yeah, because I don't think there's a certificate for that. It's only for the speaking portion.
Just for
speaking. All right, thanks.
Sure. One other key component that is critical for the site ELPAC coordinators is the when we do reports in TOMS, all the reports that come out are in Excel format. And the one set of tools that I use in Excel that have proven to be, I think, the best investment of my time to learn were the filter options. And what I do is I take the data down from Tom's, and I open up, and it opens up as spreadsheets. And I use the filtering feature. Now, the filtering feature is on the menu bar of Excel, and it's under your sort and filter buttons. And I use the filter, and it comes out looking with these little carrots at each of the column headers. All of Tom's reports come out with the name of the report in a gold bar on line 1. I have found it's best to delete that line 1, name the report what the name of the report is, and then I highlight the new line 1 and use my filter. And that way I have the column headers that I can filter. So I can actually, you could filter by grade level, you can filter by a lot of varieties. I have to do the whole district, so I filter by school, by grade, by name. I can find things. The other item on Excel is, if you can see on my screen, the pink box that's highlighted, these little boxes, I can uncheck road bikes, and the only thing that will display on my Excel will be mountain bikes and touring bikes. Conversely, I can unselect all, and I can just type in a search for what I want, what I'm looking for. So I do this often. I will search a column of SSIDs for one particular SSID. So just playing around with that sort filter feature is makes your reports much more powerful. So again, as I'm explaining, and I know this is extremely tiny, but the summative eligibility report this year, I don't know how many of you have tried to run them. Some people I know have, but it actually talks about it. It says the summative ELPAC and the alternate ELPAC operational field test eligibility report. Starting in February of next year, the summative and the alternate ELPAC will run concurrently. Your eligibility rosters at that point will be merged. They did not break them out this year because this year's a field test. They built the whole system to run in the future, not just for this year. So with that being said, you actually have to be able to filter out your alternates from your summatives. And what that looks like in the summative report in ELPAC is the very last column, which is why this is looking so tiny, is the very last column here. It says alternate operational field test. It says yes, no, or NA. So I would use my filter feature and sort out all the yeses, and I cut and paste those into a different tab. And then then I'm left with my summatives. I am more than happy to work with everybody one-on-one and show you how to do this in a Zoom time on your own time frame. So because everybody has such different varying levels of expertise in Excel, I'm not spending a whole lot of time on that today. But I want you to know that that is definitely going to be an issue. You have to get rid of your alternates because you're going to have a bunch of kids. And also the other catch to this year is the alternates, once they're tested, are not coming off of this report. So that's another reason for trying to get them out of your report. So that brings us to that Tom's versus, basically Tom's completion versus the other completion status report. So there are two completion reports available. I will go into the system just so that you can see what those are. In Tom's, you have, and I do it as an LEA, but it is a site report. This completion status report, let's see, picking on Cadman. I don't know if Linda's here, but if she is, I'm picking on you, Linda. I can run the completion report by alternate, initial, or summative, which is nice. So if I do all, since we're in the alternate, I will run alternate and you will see. This report will give me the roster of all the students, and she's all done, so she didn't have any. So it would give you a test type and a test status. The test status window would say completed or not started or started. So again, using a filter feature, I would delete the gold line, filter that line, and I would filter by the test status if there were anything here. There's not. So again, just not a whole lot of Excel teaching going on here, and I don't want to get too lost in the weeds on that. But I do want you to know that it's a very powerful tool when you start to learn how to filter those things out. You can use these reports. The other report is a completion status report at the elpac.org blue button. That takes you to a different report than the report I just showed you. And you have to go through this process, which I know a lot of you ran last year. This has a lot of very powerful tools in it as well. The completion status report for manage and testing, completion rates, and SSID. This allows you to run and search by one student to see how much of the test they've completed or not completed. I like plan and manage testing because, again, I have all of my options here, including alternate, initial, and when summative comes live, it will show summative. Down here, this will get into the pause, and I don't know how many people on this training have ever gotten a letter from me or a notice from me saying that they have a test that's in paused status. That is where I get that information from. Sorry, my little guy keeps running away from me. So back to the two different reports. As you can see on here, as I was explaining, you have completed and not started, and then there is a started. This will tell you which test it is. When you're in initial and summative, it has a variety. It has all the 4 domains in there. So it's a much larger spreadsheet. Okay, this does not, the reason why I bring up the 2 different completion status reports is if a student has paused or an expired domain, it will show up on the TOMS completion report as completed. And that's why sometimes I'll send out an email and say, hey, so-and-so has a paused test. And you'll go, wait a minute, they're completed. Yes, according to one report, they're completed, but the second reconciling report, they are not completed. So what I have on the screen at this time is the one that I was just showing you under completion status, elpac.org completion status. I don't expect you to memorize this, but you're welcome to reach out to me anytime via email or Zoom, and we can run reports for your site. I just want you to know that you have a variety of tools that basically tell you what I normally email you. And that is our abilities to run reports and see where we are on a variety of different things. When I run a report by an SSID, it's going to tell me if a student has, in this case, the sample is the second window I'm showing you. It's very small print. I know I don't expect you to be able to read it, but what I'm trying to show you is that in this case, I ran it for an alternate field test, which is indicated here under test, and its status says reported. It gives me the name, the school, the SSID, and everything. But I can also tell the date it was done, which is an important piece of information. If you have to do a STAIR report, you don't have to run around looking for everything. The information you need for a STAIR report is actually in this second, I call it the SIRS, they call it, it has another term to it, TIDES, the TIDES report. Will give you all you need to do a proper STAIR report. So you have a lot of variety of options to access information on that. So I thought I had one more. I think I was missing one screenshot. I'm sorry. I guess not. I think it scrolls it all in there. So I, at this point, would like to stop my screen share and allow, since Erica, I don't know if she's been on the chat. So Erica, do we have any questions that we need to address live?
One question, I think, for a couple of things. How long can students pause their test?
There's a whole series of pause rules, and my rule of thumb on that, first of all, I think no more than 10 days, but, and that's, by the way, when we're referring to testing, it is always going to be calendar days. They do not do school days. They do, everything is calendar days. So when it's 30 days, it's 30 calendar days, not school days. The same thing with this. It's 10, I think the max is 10, and then it goes into an expired.
So the other thing that we're coming up upon, and I know that we're also facing the same thing with CASP, is the secure browser. Do you want to talk about that, Anne, for your testers?
Sure. I have a couple different resources too on that, but the secure browser, and I'm going to go ahead and show you because this is a number one frustration I have. I guess holding it up, there we go, is not all that terrific, but I'll do my best. Number one, student issued device is critical. Number two, do not let the children log in. Number three, you are looking right here for the second item in, it's called apps. When you get to apps, there is something called a test secure browser. That is how you need the kids to access, especially your grade, predominantly grades 3 through 5. Okay, that's the quick, short, down and dirty version of that. Just to give you that visual, there is a training on the Assessment Services website under the How Do I videos that talks about, that shows a secure test browser, and it also has it recorded in Spanish. Okay, test booklets. Today is Thursday. Everybody should have gotten truck delivery by now. So here we go. You should have your TK2 materials. There are no materials 3 through 12. Somebody always says, where am I need books for grades, 5. You don't have books in grade 5. Now, tomorrow, anybody who was Monday, everybody should have their materials unless you're a truck delivery for Friday. They went to your BSS or custodial staff. They had a bright red sticker on it that said must be delivered immediately to the principal or school site test coordinator. So if, you're looking for your materials, there's 2 places, your custodial office and your principal.
And the other piece is their labels. They're wondering when they're getting
the labels won't come. They just ran the labels, so we'll get them and I get them out to you as soon as I get them. This year, I'm trying to get school truck mail, school mail delivery to you guys on those, so you don't have to leave your site and come pick them up. Because I do know that pulling you guys away from the sites right now is the last thing that you need or want. For those of you who actually could really welcome the break, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to hold your labels hostage for you if you want to come see me. I haven't seen live human beings in a while. I get lonely, so I don't mind that at all. Any other questions on that? The DFAs are live on the site for the Summit of ELPAC. And again, if I last year I was getting 5 to 6 calls a day, and every single answer was listed in the DFAs, including for the alternate. In the DFAs, it will show you step by step how to log in, how to access a test session, and how to enter the student test environment. I also have a PowerPoint I'm working on cleaning up on how to start a test session. So we have a lot of resources for you. Just want to make sure that you have what you need to make this as best we can.
Not yet.
Anything else on that? Anybody want to unmute yourself, speak freely?
Okay, this is Roseanne. I have a question.
Hi,
So
Roseanne.
on labels, are we talking just labels for booklets or labels with the kids' name and SSID?
It's the labels for your booklets. So remember, when you have, for the TK2 sites, I always tell everybody, you only need to handwrite minimal data. 1, 2, 7, 8 are the fields. You handwrite in one, you don't bubble in. You only need to handwrite. But definitely do that, because it is the double check that we do here when you give me your books back.
Okay.
Books last year were super easy. You get a pile of books, bring them to me, I process them, and we get them out of here. There are no principal apportionment forms. We got rid of those, thankfully, a couple years ago. So we're taking books like we did before. The sooner you get me their books, the sooner I ship them off to the testing company, and the sooner we get results back. So don't wait, don't hoard them. Bring them to me when you want to. I'm pretty open. I work here 7:30 to 4 pretty much every day. I am not working here on Fridays due to some, you know, the whole COVID thing and who can report and all that stuff. We're trying to balance out all of that good stuff here. But for the most part, all I ask is email me before you pop in to make sure I'm physically here. I do have, you know, like all of us, we have families, we have extended families. I know I have a couple funerals coming up, unfortunately. So just check in with me if you're going to pop in on me, and make sure I'm actually here that day so that I can be able to help.
I had a question.
Yep. Who
About
was it?
adding somebody who's going to test with me, adding her into Tom's.
Okay, so you want to know how to add a user. That's a wonderful, easy thing to do. I love that. I can show you in just a few seconds. Let me continue to share my screen here.
Now, does she have to have she has to have a password to CASPs, right?
I don't do CASP. I'm not sure about CASP, but as far as I know, when you add a user and you add them in, if you're the ELPAC and the CASP coordinator, then you have access to add users to either environment.
Okay.
So you go to your blue line bar to users and you click add. If you believe that the person has something in there already, you can find them. I always tell people I prefer you use the email to find them. The less information in the search fields of the Tom's information system, the more effective it is. I did realize I did lose something off my PowerPoint, sorry. But other than that, if they're not in there, you can just add them, and it just typically asks for a phone number, and then it'll ask you for the site and their role. Okay. What I failed to talk about, and the item that's missing is missing out of my PowerPoint, and I'm not sure what happened to it, honestly. I apologize for that because it was a good one. I'm not sure I can.